Choline, once referred to as vitamin B4, is an essential nutrient that your body cannot function without. You can make it internally, but you can't make enough to perform all the functions that are necessary. So we actually do need to get it from our diet. We'll talk about where you get it shortly. So let's talk about some of the key functions of choline right here in the center. One of them is in metabolism of fats in the liver. Without it, you can get fatty liver diagnosis. As a matter of fact, it's what I was saying earlier. If you don't drink and you have been diagnosed with fatty liver disease, what they call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, you definitely want to have your doctor looking at choline as a potential reason why. We also know that choline is responsible for the production of the neurochemical acetylcholine, which drives or runs the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the opposite of fight or flight. So if you've been high stress, high anxiety, if you're in sympathetic dominance, acetylcholine helps us come out of that state by stimulating parasympathetic tone. So this is especially true of those of you who maybe have a diagnosis of dysautonomia, Pott's disease, or Ehlers-Danlos. Many of you that have had chronic stress, many of you that have been in mold for long periods of time, many of you with autoimmune disease, where your parasympathetic tone has been shut down. Choline plays a role in picking that back up for you. We also know that it plays a role in brain communication. It's how your brain cells talk to each other. Without acetylcholine, that doesn't happen effectively. But it's also the neurochemical that allows your muscles to contract and relax. So when you exercise, if you're fatiguing out and you're not recovering from activity, oftentimes we see acetylcholine or choline at the center of why that can happen. Now, choline also plays a role in the cardiovascular system health, and one of the biggest ways that it does that is through the metabolism, or helping your body take this chemical called homocysteine and turn it into methionine. And choline plays a centerpiece in doing that. I'll show you more about that in a minute. But these are some of the top functions of choline. Now, there's a few others as well. We'll pull up some additional diagrams here. What you're looking at in this diagram, as I mentioned, acetylcholine, so the chemical that allows nerves to communicate. Choline also helps to produce a substance called phosphatidylcholine, or PC, which is a very important element in your cell membranes that allows your cell membranes to communicate with hormones more effectively. We know that you need choline actually to produce bile acid, which helps you to digest and absorb fats properly. We also know that choline is very important in the production of a substance called betaine. And betaine is an osmoregulator in the kidneys, so it helps with water balance. We know that the lungs, the surfactant in the lungs, that coating in your lung over your alveoli, is made in part as under the influence of choline. And then we know that the phospholipids that play a role in nervous system and immune system signaling are also under the influence of choline. So there's a lot going on with this key nutrient. If you look here in this diagram, you'll also see, again, some overlap here. Neurotransmission, that's acetylcholine. Cardiovascular health, homocysteine. Liver function, prevents fatty liver. One we haven't discussed yet is fetal development. The baby's developing brain requires tremendous amounts of choline, and there is research showing that when mothers have inadequate choline, we can get poor development, poor fetal development overall. We have babies that have less concentration, lower IQ, less ability to function cognitively as a result of choline deficiency. There are a number of disease states as well that are linked to choline deficiency. We'll get into some of these: heart disease, liver, Alzheimer's or cognitive decline, addiction problems, as well as cancer. We'll talk in more detail about those. But first, I want to dive into what we were talking about with the parasympathetic nervous system. So I said that choline is the primary ingredient. When you take choline and to do this, so choline produces acetylcholine, sometimes pronounced acetylcholine. But choline and vitamin B5 and vitamin B1 help to produce this substance right here. Now, we get here, this, again, the main chemical driving many of these functions that you see on the board. If we could zoom in here, pupil constriction. We know that it helps to stimulate salivation as well. That's important for digestion, right? What did we say about parasympathetic nervous system function? It's relaxation, digestion, rest, sleep. Constricting the pupils reduces the quantity of light coming in, helping us to sleep. We know that it constricts bronchi. We don't need to breathe heavy when we're trying to rest quite as much. It decreases heart rate, stimulates digestive fluids and activity, stimulates gallbladder. Remember, the gallbladder is responsible for bile secretion, and it inhibits adrenaline. So those of you that have been in a chronic state of fight or flight, you need acetylcholine to come out of that. If you've heard the term adrenal fatigue before, if you feel wired and tired, you might have choline inadequacy or choline deficiency, because again, choline helps to regulate adrenaline output. We know that choline helps to contract the bladder and relaxes the rectum, or acetylcholine rather. So all that being said, what's key here is to understand that it's one of the main chemicals responsible for your body to be in the parasympathetic realm. A lot of you are learning about mind-body techniques to get into a calm state. And some people do meditation, some people do hot tub soaks with magnesium salts, some people get massage, some people hum. All these things are helpful for parasympathetic activation through the vagus nerve. But remember, the vagus nerve, all of these functions right here from this section up, this is all vagus nerve. Cranial nerve number 10, and it's all under the influence of acetylcholine, which you cannot make without choline. So very, very important. If you're adrenally fatigued, if you're in a state of chronic anxiety or fight or flight, you need to understand choline might be at the heart of your problem. Now here's a diagram, that just a blown up diagram that shows you how choline plays a role in this. So this is a nerve ending connecting to another nerve ending. And so what we see here is these little receptors, they stick out off of the surface of the nerve. And then you see these little blue circles. These are choline, or acetylcholine rather. These are what are called synaptic vesicles, which are little bubbles that house acetylcholine. And so what happens is, in this nerve, you have a calcium channel. And so when this nerve is depolarized, so when the electrical force travels down that nerve, it depolarizes this membrane. Calcium floods into this, what's called synaptic bouton or cleft, and it stimulates the release of all these vesicles so that choline comes into this space, what's called a synaptic cleft. And then choline will interact with these receptors, and as it's interacting with these receptors, it will depolarize this nerve. So that's how this nerve communicates to this nerve, is through the chemical acetylcholine. Again, you can see choline here. It gets recycled back up and repackaged, but acetylcholine is the chemical that does the communicating. So what do you need to make that? You need choline, you need vitamin B5, you need vitamin B1. Very, very important. So where we'll see a lot of people develop choline deficiency, probably some of the worst cases of choline deficiency I've seen is in the vegan population. So vegans don't get adequate choline. Choline is predominantly found in animal foods. Eggs are one of the richest sources of choline. And of course, eggs have been demonized, right? Don't eat eggs, because why? We're worried about cholesterol. Well, we're not worried. A lot of the cardiologists are telling you to lower your cholesterol, therefore you shouldn't eat eggs. This is one of the richest dietary sources of choline. And if you cut these things out, along with cutting out other animal proteins, it's going to be very, very hard to get adequate choline from dietary sources. And so this is why oftentimes we'll see people on on strictly vegan diets, I mean totally plant-based, no animal products whatsoever, developing choline deficiencies. If you're on a vegetarian diet where you're also eating eggs, so in essence an ovo-vegetarian diet, you should probably be okay in getting adequate amounts of choline, but you're not going to get it if you don't eat it. You're not going to make enough. Now, what do we know about choline deficiency? According to NHANES study data, in the United States, about 90% of the U.S. population has inadequate choline intake. So whether you're vegetarian, vegan, or not, according to data, 90% of you do not get adequate intakes of choline. So the problem is quite prolific, especially when we consider what the consequences are. Now, there are certain key factors that will increase your risk for developing choline deficiency or having choline inadequacy. Some of them are genetic, but not all. I'll talk about some of these first. So you can see common genetic polymorphisms affect our requirement for choline, but there's a particular gene SNP called the PEMT, the 744G to C gene. If you have that single nucleotide polymorphism, or if you have that genetic variant, this makes you a lot more susceptible to choline deficiency. But for those of you who have done popular genetic testing like 23andMe and some of the other genetic sites where you can get genome testing done, if you have this particular SNP, then you may want to consider supplementation with choline. It's a possibility, not necessarily a guarantee, but definitely a possibility. One of the other things that we know influence choline is sex and menopausal status. So in this particular study, we're investigating sex and menopausal status and and dietary requirements for choline. And so you see here, although humans require dietary choline for methyl donation, membrane function, neurotransmission, choline can also be derived from the de novo synthesis, meaning we can make it internally from phosphatidylcholine, which is upregulated by estrogen. Key thing here, this is why there's a sex difference, is that estrogen can help us make choline. And ladies, when you're going through menopause and your estrogen levels drop, this could be an indicator. This could be one of the things that's influencing a reduction in your choline. So you can see here, when deprived of dietary choline, 77% of men and 80% of postmenopausal women developed fatty liver or muscle damage, whereas only 44% of premenopausal women. So if you were a woman with enough estrogen, not going through menopause, there was less likelihood of you developing muscle damage or fatty liver as a result of eating a low choline diet. But it's the estrogen, right? Again, the estrogen allows your body to tap into producing choline from another type of choline called phosphatidylcholine, which is found in your cell membranes. We know that trauma and surgical conditions can deplete choline. You can see here the serum levels of choline decreased by 50% in patients having surgery under general as well as epidural anesthesia. The decrease lasts for 2 days after surgery. These observations show that serum choline levels increase during pregnancy and decrease during stressful situations in humans. They increase during pregnancy because the child needs more choline, as I mentioned before, but after surgery, the levels can drop for several days by half. And when you've taken that into the context with what we've seen in animal studies around what happens after surgery, one of the things, and this happens in humans too, it's called perioperative neurocognitive disorder, right? It's basically brain fog after surgery. It's a common complication after orthopedic surgery. These findings together suggest that non-pharmaceutical approaches such as pre-surgical dietary intervention with choline may be able to prevent PNDs. Now, I just did an entire crash course on surgery and nutrition for surgery, and you should add this to that repertoire of knowledge around how you can prep for surgery. But choline before surgery helps to reduce the brain fog, oftentimes associated with post-surgical issues. We also take this into context. Oral choline supplementation for post-operative pain. As you can see here, choline is a neuronutritional supplement that selectively activates the alpha 7 nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. Alpha 7 containing nicotinic receptors are expressed in the central and peripheral nervous system and on immune cells, where their activation reduces the production, so we get reduced production of inflammatory cytokines or chemicals via a pathway that involves the transnucleation of nuclear factor kappa B and decreased production of TNF alpha, or tumor necrosis factor. Systemically administered choline has been shown to have analgesic effects or efficacy in preclinical trials, potentially through a reduction in surgically induced inflammation. So, in your nervous system, you have these specialized nicotinic receptors that are activated by choline that modulate inflammation and modulate pain. So, going into surgery, you want to reduce the potential for pain, you can load up on choline to help with that. Now, since I've got this up, a lot of you are seeing right now people recommending the use of the drug nicotine. And nicotine also activates these receptors, which is why some people with like COVID, post-COVID, and post-mold chronic inflammation, when they take nicotine, they have less pain. And it has to do with binding and activating these same receptors. Have less pain, have less inflammation. There's an anti-inflammatory component. The problem with using nicotine is that when you use nicotine over a long enough period of time, you have to keep adjusting the dose up and up and up, or your body develops a resistance to it because you develop a resistance on these receptors. But choline doesn't do that. Choline will interact with these receptors without creating a resistance, without creating a diminished effect. So you might consider, those of you who benefit from nicotine from chronic inflammatory conditions, you might consider choline instead. It's non-addictive and it doesn't come with the long list of potential side effects that nicotine can have. Okay, let's talk about choline and neurological development. This is just another scenario where we might see an increased risk for choline deficiency, and this is in neurodevelopment in babies. So you see, choline has recently been coined a neuroprotectant and a neurocognitive essential nutrient. It's critical for normal growth and functioning in the early brain. Fetal infant demand is so high that this exceeds the ability, de novo synthesis means internal production, so it exceeds de novo synthesis by the body in this time, thereby making it an essential component of the diet. Presently, as I mentioned before, 90% of Americans have choline intakes falling below the basic adequate intake, allowing most pregnant and breastfeeding mothers adequate intake of 450 to 500 milligrams a day, respectively. And also, we have shifts toward what we were talking about before, plant-based diets and veganism are also likely to exacerbate further the risk of choline inadequacies. In my opinion, if you're a mother and you're pregnant and you're on a vegan diet, I mean, it's in a sense, it's you're asking for problems. You're asking for trouble. You're asking for the potential for birth defects, brain defects, and issues in your child. Supporting normal brain development, protecting against alcohol exposure and infections, choline does that as well, and dampening intellectual disability by improving neural cognitive functioning and memory. They've studied this extensively in babies, and they've looked at brain development, they've looked at IQ and neural functioning, and found that choline deficiency leads to diminishment of those things, and choline adequacy allows for better cognition. So take care of your kids, ladies. If you're doing that, if you're going to stay plant-based, you need to consider choline supplementation.